Alan Steinfeld, welcome back to Nature of Reality Radio. I saw you at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles. That was a wonderful conference. I go to that conference every so often. I'm trying to make it local now. And you said that you wanted to come on my show again. Return guest, sorry, rarity on this show because I always try to get different people to talk about different things and different subjects. But if anybody wants to come on again, I will certainly give them the opportunity. So, Alan, what have you got to talk about?
Well, we talked about my book last time, right? Making Contact. Is that what our last conversation was? Do you remember that?
I don't ever remember reading that.
Oh, I should send you a PDF of that book. It's in all the marketplace. It's in Barnes and Noble. It's a book about the overview of the UFO situation. It is an overview of the UFO situation. Let's see. It's a collection of essays that detail the nuts and bolts to consciousness. So I'm not sure which aspect of the UFO situation or phenomena you're interested in. Which part do you like to engage? Which part
Well,
are
the
you?
thing about the UFOs, it's so out there, there's so much misinformation, and people say, I saw a UFO, and next thing you know, you're fired. It's very common with the airline pilots who
Mhm.
try to say something about UFOs and then they lose their job next thing they know. So
Well, it's changing though. It's changing because of the government. Have you seen the latest government documents?
I think I haven't read them in their
You should look at.
entirety, but I have seen that they've been out, been exposed.
Well,
So
in this something last June, there was something called the preliminary assessment on UAPs. You notice they're now calling these things UAPs, not UFOs.
yeah,
Have you heard
very
that term?
familiar.
And so they're calling them UAPs, which means unidentified aerial phenomena, because these are not just objects. These are affecting human consciousness. They're affecting our physiology. They're they're impacting the human experience. So this is not just beings visiting us from another planet. There's something about consciousness that is intricately connected to us and them. And this is something the government is starting to notice. And this in this report called the preliminary assessment of UAPs, was 9 pages, was the public report. And it says there's been a stigma about reporting these things in the past. And this government, the Defense Intelligence, DIN, Defense Intelligence Network, is trying to change how we feel about this phenomena because it's either a threat, which I don't believe, or it's something we really need to become aware of as a civilization. This is a civilization. Yeah, so pilots have been, especially military, they've lost their jobs, and now that's all changed. The mood has changed. So does that make it a little clearer for you?
Yes, indeed it does. And regarding how can these craft come to the Earth, it's well, the late Stanton Friedman was always talking about magnetohydraulic propulsion, and but that's a very down to earth way of going through the cosmos, and it does not account for the distances between galaxies that we're talking light years. So when you have to travel light years through space, one of the best options would be a wormhole. But there is also the how do I say this? Heisenberg uncertainty principle, spook action at a distance, where you exploit the fact that space and time are illusions, and you can be anywhere, anytime, any place. But well, your physical self is in a place, but your consciousness is somewhere else.
Hmm.
So, how do we make sense of the different kinds of technologies that UFOs have when we have so many
Well,
to choose from?
that's the problem. We can't make sense of it because we are looking at reality from a very, I would say, simplistic point of view. It's like, does your dog or your cat know what you're doing at the computer? Let's say they're talking to other cats. They say, what is that guy doing looking at that little screen, talking to himself? I'm just making that up, of course, but that's the level where we're at. And as we look at these things, well, how do they do those things? It's impossible, they can't exist. So we're not as developed. So when you say, how do we make sense of this? We can't make sense of this on the level of intelligence, consciousness, awareness, vibrational activity that we, as a limited race of human beings, which essentially we are not, but what we've been told and have been conditioned to think, we can't make sense of this. We cannot make sense of it. What we have to do is accept the phenomena as it appears, whatever that means. What it means that we can't understand it, but let's just, instead of saying it can't exist because we can't understand it, let's try to stretch ourselves to what I call my company new realities and see if we can first accept phenomena and then try to understand it. Otherwise, we're doing this backwards. It's like the world presents itself to us, right? We
Mhm.
live in this big chaos of a world, and if you weren't taught distinctions when you were growing up, if you weren't taught that was a tree, this is a road, that's a car, that's a house, we need to be taught how to perceive reality. And that conditioning of our perceptions creates the world, which is essentially chaos. We are living in chaos. It's only through detailed understandings about ways things work that we start to make sense of reality, right? So that's where we're at when we're looking at this bigger phenomena. Does that make sense?
Yes, indeed. And there is a lot of chaos going on in the world right now regarding inflation. And I just watched the new and improved gold versus Bitcoin debate with Max Kaiser and some other guy named Alan, drawing a blank on his name.
What,
But
what are they saying about that? Because I've been following that. I've been a guy you should interview about that is Paul Hynek, a son of J. Allen Hynek. He is quite an expert on why Bitcoin will replace gold on all levels.
oh, really? How do we know for a fact that Bitcoin is not controlled by the control system? David Icke, in his book, The Answer, which I finished reading not that long ago, he suggests that it is a um, tool of the control system. How his brain is wired to see conspiracy and everything, but
It seems like those people in the know, and I think governments are not, I mean, governments are part of the control system, but I don't think, according to people I've talked to anyway, because I'm not an expert on that, that it seems to be outside the control system, which makes it so valuable for everybody. You know, when people are hacked, when computer companies or people are hacked, they have to pay off in Bitcoin because it's not traceable. So I think this is outside the reach, and this kind of, according to Paul Hynek's discussions I had with him, it neutralizes those in control. It is the great equalizer, the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, because it is not under government inspection. So I don't know where David Icke is getting that from. He's, yes, you're right, generally seems to be a paranoid individual. And I like David. When I met him, I actually say I liked him because, I mean, he made sense about a lot of things. But I think when people don't understand something, and you can talk about science or politicians, they call it they label it with what they know. They call DNA, they don't understand, junk DNA. Now, how ridiculous is that? Do you think nature really makes junk DNA? You've heard that. When we talk about these UFOs that we don't understand, we like to just shove it under the carpet because humans are very insecure if they don't understand a phenomena. They just rather not look at it because the whole idea of survival is about being in control of your environment. And suddenly you're not in control. Suddenly the government doesn't know what these things are. Talk to experts. Everyone only has a small piece of it. So in my book, Making Contact, I equalize and say, well, no one has. Of course, it's like taking different parts of the elephant. We've heard that story. Everyone has a little piece and they think they know what the elephant is. And nobody knows how to put all these pieces together to make the elephant because, or whatever you want to call it, because no one's looking at the big picture. No one's looking at all the pieces. So you're understanding to understand a technology that's so far in advance of where we're at, like how is the Stone Age people going to understand how a computer works? That's where we're at. We're, I would say, 20 or 30 or 100,000 years behind these advanced civilizations. We're like Stone Age people looking at these things and saying, well, that's impossible. That can't exist. So when science says it's impossible to travel light years in minutes, they obviously don't understand the technology that has allowed other civilizations to do that. Right?
Yes, yes. And we are on a timeline that will allow us to see extraterrestrials sooner rather than later. Well, that's what we hope, but we don't know when that's going to be. I mean, I've heard some people like Brad Johnson, who no longer channels Adronis, by the way. He was talking about 2050 being the year where humans will finally be awake and aware to the point where it's okay for ET to come down and land on the White House lawn and say, yeah, we're here. The extraterrestrial theorists and the UFO buffs were right all along. So here we are. But but there are those who seem to have a more optimistic approach to this. I have been talking a lot about the upcoming solar eclipse that's going to happen in April 8th, 2024, which is day after my 38th birthday, and Carmardale, Illinois. Crisscross point of that eclipse and the eclipse that happened in 2017, August.
This is a solar eclipse? This is a full solar eclipse, you're saying?
Yeah, there's going to be a full solar eclipse in April 8th, 2024. Before that, there's actually going to be annular eclipse where there's like like a solar eclipse where it's not totally solar, but before that, a couple months before that, there's supposed to be, and then there's the big enchilada, the April 8th, 2024 one, which is supposed to signal the end of the Roman Empire of the modern era that is the United States of America. Now, the man who is in the White House does not deserve to be in the White House. There was voter fraud of the highest degree, and Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, is someone you might want to look into for that.
I don't really get into the whole political thing because it's just so, I don't know, self-indulgent. Yeah, of course, politics, but it's like meaningless. What side is right? I don't know. I just think it's much bigger than what we're seeing. And if you think this is happening, we're not looking at the bigger picture here. They're being distracted by politics, and the question is not politics, but who's pulling the strings, right?
Well, yeah, but that's my point. Trump was going to put America on the gold standard. How do we know that? Because he took down portraits of Bill Clinton and George Bush. I'm not sure which George Bush, but he took the portraits down and he replaced that with a portrait of William McKinley and Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt's kind of a travesty because the
Yeah,
um, thing, but William McKinley, he wanted to put America on the gold standard, and back in the day, nobody's alive from that time, but the bankers would have preferred free silver over the gold standard. And even though there isn't any obvious evidence that McKinley was assassinated by the bankers, in all likelihood, that guy who killed him, Leon Czolgosz, was a mind control patsy of the bankers, and Trump would want to put us on the gold standard,
well,
but it
I
didn't
don't
happen.
trust Trump. I don't trust any politician. I think Trump is probably as much or as corrupt as anyone else. That's just my feeling. That's why I don't get into politics, because it, it's such a ball of wax. Yeah, some people like him, some people hate him. I'd rather not even. I mean, that's great, but I think crypto is something you should look into more, because it might be an answer to the cabal. It might be a way where we can bypass the manipulation of money. Because whether you're on the gold standard or not, there's a total manipulation of the economic systems of the world, and we're all subject victims to it. So I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know if the gold standard is an answer or not.
Well, we would certainly like to get rid of the ball and chain that is bankers loaning us money that doesn't exist and charging us interest on it. That's the ultimate ball and chain that keeps us in debt to them.
Right.
And I personally think it's a bad idea for people to max out their credit cards to buy as much gold and silver as possible,
Mm.
because that's karma's going to come back to bite you if you do that. So it's better to credit card, for all intents and purposes, God's way of seeing how well humans can manage their karma. So
Mm.
in due time, we would prefer to have something other than the dollar.
Right.
And yeah, so
Exactly. Well, what you just said is my whole argument against student loan debt. They fabricate money and then they charge interest on the fabrication. How do you get interest on something you've just manufactured out of nowhere? How does that? I mean, gold, yes, would be, I don't know. I don't believe people should make money off of money if they're lending money. I mean, I don't know. The whole system, I can't even think about it. The whole system, gold standard, is that going to, maybe it'll change something, but it is so corrupt on levels and levels and levels that, um, we don't even understand if we're not an inside economic expert, that is. So, and who are the people pulling the strings? I don't know. But it seems like crypto is a kind of equalizer, according to what my sources said. I have not studied it, and maybe it's something you would like to interview some people about. But
I've
well,
only bought $50 worth of crypto. My thing of choice is silver. I prefer silver over gold because silver seems to allow for the flow of energy more so than other things. It's better to decorate with silver, and just a big wad of silver laying there is, well, it's valuable, but it's not as good as having like silver bracelets and silver trinkets all over the place, which allows for the flow of energy to transverse. That's what people in the spiritual but not religious community have told me. And I think so. Buying as much gold and silver as you can reasonably afford is certainly something worth doing. Um, but who's in control, you say? You don't know. Well, Alex Collier did say back in late 2019, it was, that the overlords are gone. The Draco Reptilian overlords are no longer here. The higher ups, they're completely gone. The Anunnaki that made an alliance with them, they're also gone as well. There's no more higher ups that the cabal can go to save their ass in the event that some whistleblower tries to expose something. And um, well, if that is the case, we hope that humanity will be freer sooner rather than later.
Uh,
But
don't I just have a objection to that. There's people who've been saying the Kabbalah's gone since 1920 or 1890 or 18 whatever. I have to say it's not nonsense, but it's a fabrication. We'll know the Kabbalah's gone when things change for the benefit of humanity, when there's no more war, there's no more famine, there's no more um, banks even. I don't know. I mean, they're disappearing, but mm, I don't buy it. Oh, that stuff is channeled. I would say I don't know where Alex Collier, although I like his work, I don't know where he's getting that information from, and I can't say that's a reality. So we have to keep working as hard as we can to free ourselves from the forces that seek to control our minds.
yes, and of course it does take time. It's not like one person can change the world and it could happen in the course of 24 hours. It doesn't work like that. These things do take time, and with the way the human race is going, uh, what needs to be done to make the human race understand that there is technology out there that can provide free energy for everybody, free food for everybody, and we don't really need money anymore if this stuff were to exist.
Well,
But
that's what I'm trying to talk to you about there, Andrew, is that the suppression of UFO technology, because they're not filling up their gas tanks to get here, is the answer that we need to pressure government, whoever they are, to come out with the truth that there are these craft in possession of the US government that they've reversed engineered. Talk to Bob Lazar, talk to other people who've worked there. They have these craft that now function on, that have seen to function on free energy, not fossil fuels. So we have that. That's corporate suppression. When the cabal really is over, we're going to get the free energy. But as long as we don't have free energy, because obviously there's energy everywhere. Look at the plant. Look at the plants. Like look at the trees that grow. They're not being charged for that energy. There's abundant energy throughout the cosmos. This is the work of Nassim Hamim. I mean, there's so much energy that has been available. We've just been dumbed down to make it available to us. But that's when we know things will change. When the free energy, I agree, is out, open, available, and used by everybody to make their lives easier, to not be enslaved to the system, to be under the framework of the matrix, then we'll know things have changed. And it will change overnight, I think.
you think it will change overnight? Well,
With free
some
energy, if we
oh,
get free energy, yeah.
it could. Installing all the factories and all that function on that may take a little time, but
Right.
get the idea. Now, regarding um, this situation that humanity is in, where we are dealing with massive inflation and food shortages. I work at Whole Foods, and it's a dream come true for me because I love to eat, and I get 20% discount, and it's the year of the water tiger, and I'm a tiger, so being the dishwasher, for all intents and purposes, is the perfect place for me to be. And I always like to get working, so it's a perfect environment for me. And the problem, though, is that many people might become couch potatoes if they were told that they can get everything for free, and that would be a problem. So, what is needed to get the human race to get off its ass and and get that kick in the pants to realize, okay, man has to work. Just because everything is provided for you doesn't mean you don't have to work. If you're gonna smoke marijuana, eat potato chips on couch all day long, then you have no life. Then there's a problem. So, what do we
Uh,
need to do to get humanity
that's
to
a
make sure?
good question, and actually, I've thought a lot about the answer. I'm not saying it's true, what I think. I'm just saying this is what I believe. First of all, it's a failure of education. We, that system is not taught. Children come into this world excited and alive and fascinated. Look at a little baby. They're running for this thing, they're running for that because the world is new and unknown and possible. And we have to keep that sense of aliveness alive. And instead, we put them in institutions, have them sit behind a desk. I mean, there are some alternative schools, of course, and we make them shut down the right side of their brain, the creative side of the brain, and we focus on logic, which is fine, but don't make it the whole thing. ABC 1, 2, 3 is what's then programmed, and I say programmed into these children's minds, and the excitement that they had about the reality of the world and being alive is stomped out for some. The ones that do survive that stomping are the artists, are the creatives, are the musicians, are the poets, are the painters. These are the ones that somehow escape to some degree the indoctrination of left brain logical thinking. And so what we have to do is teach whole brain thinking. I'm not saying to deny logic, but let's be creative and logical, if that's two. We need to be work on both sides of the brain. So people want to just get out of the system because they've and just smoke pot and eat potato chips because they've forgotten the excitement of and the magic of everyday life. And the magic is available right here if we could just reactivate the sense of wonder. So the most important thing of education is to keep alive the sense of wonder. And that's been the huge failure of institutional learning, of everything. I mean, I was fortunate. I had teachers. I liked learning. I liked exploring the world. I had some great teachers who taught me how to think. Not didn't tell me what to think. They taught me how to think. That's the big difference. So when people are re-educated to be in wonder and be excited about that sense of creativity, then the new system that we run on is creative input. We don't, and it's already, look at the great artists. Somehow they've risen to the top. Of course, there's a lot of artists that probably are fantastic that no one's heard of, and there's probably been a lot of great musicians. But when you get some original music out there, you get someone with a new sound, a new song, you get someone dynamic and alive, they are living off their creative potential. It's no longer about money, it's about how inventive and alive they can make other people feel. So if we can then re-educate people where art and creativity is the, what did you call it, the not the standard, the creative standard of being here, and everyone has a chance because there is free energy. I know it's hypothetical and idealistic and utopian, but when there is that available, when we can just sit back and watch television and be on your internet and eat potato chips, and that won't be enough to satisfy the restless, inspirational need each of us have, which is hardwired into us to create. Andrew, this is what you're doing by doing these podcasts. This is your creative input. This is your gift to humanity. All of us have a gift to humanity. That's why you've incarnated. I don't know if it's for the podcast or whatever. Maybe it's for the mustache. I don't know. But you've incarnated for a reason. And when that's relearned, free energy then becomes a tool for the acceleration of feeling and activity among the human race. And so that's what we have to look forward to, not sitting around because we've been dumbed down and forgotten who we are in terms of our incarnational experience, but no, wow, look what's going on here. I want to be part of all of it. And that's exciting for me.
Yeah.
Well, what about
All
for you?
right. So at this point, all
Yeah.
subscribers will have to pay me on Patreon to listen to the rest of this interview. Um,
Wait, before we go, I just want to tell people there's a special video series I'm creating called makingcontactseries.com. And go to makingcontactseries.com. I go deeper into all these subjects with some amazing experts like Whitley Strieber, Linda Moulton Howe, Nick Pope, Carolyn Corey, Adam Apollo. They're all going to be on this series, makingcontactseries.com. Look for it.